Chosen one, something happened in heaven recently that you were not told about, not because it was hidden from you, because the celebration was so immediate, so overwhelming in its joy, that by the time the sound of it could reach your ears on this side of the veil, you had already moved on to the next struggle. You had already wiped your face and gone back to work. You had already told yourself that nothing had changed. But something changed. Something massive changed. And the fact that you did not feel it change is part of what makes this moment so important. Because the distance between what has happened in the spirit and what you have experienced in your body is exactly what this message is about to close. I need to say this clearly before we go any further. God smiled. Not the way people smile when they are being polite. Not the way someone smiles when something pleasant happens nearby. God smiled the way a father smiles when his child finally stands up after falling 900 times. When the knees are bruised and the hands are scraped and the tears have dried into salt lines on the face and the child does not even realize they are standing. That is the smile. That is what happened. And it happened because of you. If something just moved in your chest, if a warmth just appeared that was not there 30 seconds ago, that is not emotion. That is proximity. That is the residual heat of a celebration that took place over your name in a realm you cannot see but have always been able to feel. And you are feeling it right now. Before we go deeper, if your spirit is already responding to this, type "God smiled at me" in the comments below, not to perform for anyone. To mark this moment, to plant a flag in the timeline of your life that says, something shifted here and I was awake for it. Now let me tell you what you did, because I do not think you know. I do not think anyone has sat you down and named the thing you accomplished. And the reason no one has named it is because the thing you did does not look like an accomplishment by any standard the world currently recognizes. There was no trophy, no promotion letter, no round of applause from the people around you. What you did happened so quietly that even you missed it. You held on. That is what you did. You held on in a season where every signal around you said to let go, where the evidence said, this is not working, where your own mind, your own logic, your own exhaustion built a case so convincing that letting go would have been the most rational thing you had ever done. And you did not let go. Not because you are stubborn, not because you had no other option. You held on because something inside you, something deeper than thought, deeper than strategy, deeper than the part of you that calculates risk, that something refused to release the rope. It was not courage in the way the world defines courage. It was something more ancient than that. It was recognition. You recognized the voice underneath the silence, and you stayed. Let me describe what that looked like from the outside, because I want you to see your own reflection in this for a moment. You woke up on days when waking up felt like lifting a stone slab off your chest. You prayed on mornings when prayer felt like dropping coins into a well so deep you could not hear them land. You showed up to responsibilities that did not thank you, that did not acknowledge you, that treated your presence as furniture rather than fire. You did this not once, not for a week. You did this across a season that stretched so long it stopped feeling like a season and started feeling like your permanent address. And the dangerous part, the part that almost broke you, was not the difficulty itself. It was the silence. Because difficulty with a voice speaking over it is survivable. Difficulty in total silence is something else entirely. That silence made you question everything. There is another pattern I want to name because you have lived it and no one has ever reflected it back to you. During the delay, you became invisible to people who used to see you. Not physically invisible, spiritually invisible. You would walk into a room and the energy would not shift. You would share an idea and it would land flat. You would offer help, and it would be accepted without acknowledgement. You started to wonder if you were disappearing, if the version of you that used to draw attention and respect and recognition had somehow been erased. That was not erasure, that was concealment. God hides what he is about to promote. He tucks the thing he values most into a season of invisibility so that the wrong hands cannot reach it and the wrong eyes cannot covet it. Every monarch in history was hidden before they were crowned. Moses in the desert, David in the fields, Joseph in the prison, you in the silence. The invisibility was not a demotion, it was protection, and the protection is now being lifted, not gradually, suddenly, because the formation is complete and the concealment has served its purpose. The people who stopped seeing you are about to turn around and wonder when you became this, and the answer is, you always were this. They were just not permitted to see it until now. And here is what I have observed in people who carry what you carry. There is a specific pattern that nobody discusses because it does not fit neatly into any sermon or motivational framework. You did not just endure a hard season. You endured a hard season while watching other people enter their blessings during the exact same calendar days. The same months that were breaking you were blooming for someone else. And your spirit, to its credit, did not become bitter. But it did become tired. It became the kind of tired that sleep cannot fix. The kind that sits behind your eyes even when you smile. You started to wonder if maybe you had missed a turn. If maybe the thing you were holding onto was not a promise but a memory. If maybe the version of your life that felt like it was supposed to arrive had already been reassigned to someone who was better positioned to carry it. That thought, that specific thought, is the one that almost took you out, not because it was true, but because it felt true. And in the absence of any counter-evidence, feelings become the only evidence available. You were running a courtroom in your own mind, with no defense attorney, only a prosecutor. And the prosecutor had years of material, but here is what the prosecutor did not have access to. The prosecutor did not have the view from heaven. And from heaven, what you were doing was not failing. What you were doing was not falling behind. What you were doing was completing the most difficult phase of a process that has a name most people have never been given. It is called the victory delay, and it is not a punishment, it is not a test of patience. It is the specific season where the victory has already been secured in the spirit, but has not yet materialized in the visible world. The gap between those two events, the spiritual completion and the physical manifestation, that gap is where you have been living. That gap is where the silence came from, and that gap is where the celebration started. Because heaven does not wait for the physical evidence to arrive before it celebrates. Heaven celebrates at the moment of spiritual completion. And your spiritual completion happened before you felt it, before you saw it, before your circumstances confirmed it. You were still in the fog when the trumpets sounded. You were still wiping tears when the applause began. And that is not cruelty. That is the nature of how divine timing operates. The spirit realm moves first. The physical realm follows. And the person in between feels like nothing is happening. But everything was happening, everything. If that just hit you, if your eyes are changing right now, if something behind your ribs just unlocked, type "Heaven celebrated" in the comments. Let that be your second marker. 2 flags in one message. That is not an accident. Now here is where the victory delay reveals something even more important. And this is the part that most people miss because they are so focused on the waiting that they never stop to ask what the delay was actually doing to them while they were inside it. You assumed the delay was about timing, that God was waiting for the right moment to release what was yours. And that is partially true, but it is not the whole truth. The delay was not only about when, it was about who. Specifically, who you would become by the time the delivery arrived, because the version of you that entered the delay and the version of you that is hearing this message right now are not the same person. The delay changed you, not in the ways you planned, not in the ways you prayed for, in ways you did not notice because they happened at the level of identity, not behavior. You became quieter, not defeated quiet, rooted quiet. You stopped needing to explain yourself to people who were never going to understand. You stopped chasing validation from rooms that were never designed to hold you. You started making decisions from a place deeper than logic, and you did not realize any of this was happening because it felt like survival. It felt like just getting through the day. But it was not survival. It was formation. And the formation is complete. That is what God smiled at. Not the fact that you made it through. The fact that you became someone specific by making it through. Someone the promise can now land on without destroying. Because some blessings, the kind God has been holding back, require a foundation that only the delay can build. Rush the foundation and the blessing collapses. Complete the foundation and the blessing arrives with an address and a permanent structure to inhabit. You are the structure. The delay built you, and heaven just confirmed the inspection passed. Let me tell you something else that happened during the delay that you interpreted incorrectly. And I say this not to correct you, but to free you, because the misinterpretation has been sitting on your chest like a second weight, and it is time to lift it off. You looked at your circumstances during the silent season, and you concluded that you had not grown. That is the misinterpretation. You measured your growth by the metrics the world gave you. Income, title, relationship status, physical appearance. The number of people who noticed you in a room, and by those metrics, yes, it may have looked like stagnation. It may have looked like the same year repeating itself 5 or 6 times with different calendar pages. But that is because the world measures growth horizontally. It measures how far you moved across the surface. God measures growth vertically. He measures how deep your roots went while the surface stayed still. And your roots went so deep during that delay that the surface had no choice but to eventually reflect what was happening underground. Think about that for a moment. A tree that grows 30 feet in a year but has shallow roots falls in the first storm. A tree that appears to do nothing for 3 years while its root system spreads 40 feet underground becomes the tree that nothing can move. You looked like the stagnant tree. You were the unmovable one. And the storm that was supposed to take you out is the same storm that proved what you were made of. That is not poetry. That is your biography. And heaven recognized it before the ground did. You have also experienced something during the delay that you may have been ashamed of. There were days when your faith felt mechanical. When you went through the motions, not because you believed they were working, but because you did not know what else to do. You prayed out of habit. You showed up out of discipline. You held on not out of conviction, but out of the terrifying possibility that letting go might be worse than the holding. And you felt guilty about that. You felt like real faith should feel different, that it should be accompanied by warmth and certainty and the constant sense of divine presence. And when the warmth disappeared and the certainty evaporated and the presence felt like an echo instead of a voice, you thought something was wrong with your spiritual life. Nothing was wrong. What you were doing, the mechanical faith, the discipline-based obedience, the showing up without feeling, that is the highest form of trust. Because trust with evidence is not trust. It is calculation. Trust without evidence. Trust in the dark. Trust when the feeling has left and only the decision remains. That is the material God uses to build crowns. And yours is being forged right now. If that just shifted something in the way you see yourself. if the shame of those mechanical faith days just loosened its grip? Type, "The roots went deep" in the comments below, because that is not a comment. That is a rewriting of your history, a correction of the story you have been telling yourself about who you were during the delay. Let me show you something else about what happened during the victory delay, because this is where the pattern moves from spiritual language into something you can feel in your own body right now. And I say this carefully, because what I am about to describe is something almost no one in your life has ever named for you. During the delay, something happened to your mind that you have been misinterpreting. Your thinking slowed. Your memory became less reliable. Ideas that used to arrive in sharp, complete form started arriving in fragments, if they arrived at all. You would sit down to work on something important and within 20 minutes feel a heaviness behind your eyes that had nothing to do with sleep. You would try to read something meaningful and find yourself rereading the same paragraph 3 times without absorbing it. You blamed the season, you blamed stress, you blamed your age, you blamed the weight of everything you were carrying, and those were reasonable explanations, but they were incomplete. Because what was happening in your mind during the victory delay was not fatigue, it was disconnection. A specific kind of disconnection that has been studied in research laboratories for decades, but has never been translated into the language of the community you belong to. Here is what I mean by that. There is a condition, not a disease, not a disorder, a condition, where the 2 hemispheres of the brain fall out of their designed synchronization. When they are synchronized, you operate at what researchers call whole brain activation. Ideas arrive complete. Intuition and logic cooperate instead of competing. The creative fire you remember having as a child is present and accessible. When they fall out of synchronization, which happens gradually under the pressure of modern life, stress, screen exposure, sleep disruption, emotional weight, you begin to operate on half of what you were designed to operate on. Not half intelligence, half integration, half capacity to receive what is being offered to you. And here is where this connects to what heaven celebrated. The victory was secured, the blessing was released, but the receiver, your mind, the instrument through which divine provision becomes tangible experience, that receiver was operating below its designed capacity. The signal was being sent. The antenna was not fully extended, and so the arrival felt muted. The clarity felt foggy. The breakthrough felt like a whisper when it should have felt like a shout. That is not a metaphor. That is a pattern, and it changes the way you understand your entire experience inside the victory delay. You were not struggling because God was withholding. You were struggling because the very instrument God designed to receive what he was sending had been compromised by conditions you did not create and did not know how to address. The spirit was willing. The mind was running on partial power, and no amount of prayer, fasting, or discipline can compensate for a receiver that is neurologically unable to fully process the signal being sent to it. Maybe right now you are thinking that if this were true, someone would have told you. That is a reasonable response, but consider this. The people in your spiritual community are experiencing the same condition. The leaders you listen to are teaching from the same partial integration. The culture you are in does not have language for neurological synchronization because it was never given that language. The research exists. The pattern is documented. The connection between what you are experiencing spiritually and what is happening physiologically has been sitting in laboratories for over 40 years. It simply never crossed the border into the conversation you are part of, until now. And the fact that it is crossing that border in this specific message at this specific moment in your life, after heaven has already celebrated what you accomplished, is not coincidence. It is delivery. The note you were supposed to receive is arriving in real time. Hold that for a moment. We are going to come back to what they found in those laboratories and what it means for the speed at which everything God has arranged for you begins to materialize in your visible life. But first, I need to tell you something about the way heaven celebrates that will reframe something you have been carrying. The celebration that happened over your life was not a one-time event. It was not a single moment of applause that faded. What happened when you completed the victory delay was the activation of something I call the celebration frequency. And I want to explain what that means because it changes how you walk through every remaining day of your life. When heaven celebrates, it does not celebrate the way humans celebrate. Human celebration is reactive. Something good happens, you feel happy, the happiness fades, you return to baseline. Divine celebration is generative. When God celebrates over you, the celebration itself becomes a force that begins to reorganize the circumstances around you. It is not a response to your victory. It is an acceleration of everything that follows your victory. The celebration is not the end of the story. It is the engine of the next chapter. And that is why things around you have started to shift in ways you cannot fully explain. Small things at first. A conversation that went differently than expected. A door that opened without you pushing. A feeling of lightness that arrived on a day when nothing externally changed. Those are not random. Those are the early signatures of the celebration frequency reaching your physical environment. Heaven celebrated first. Now reality is catching up. But here is where I need to be careful and honest with you, because this is not a blanket promise that everything becomes easy overnight. That is not how this works. What the celebration frequency does is shift the terrain. It does not eliminate the work. It eliminates the resistance to the work. The same tasks that felt like pushing a boulder uphill will begin to feel like the boulder is rolling with you. Not because the boulder changed, because the gradient changed. Because the spiritual infrastructure underneath your effort has been upgraded. If you are feeling that right now, if something in your spirit is responding to the word upgraded, type, "The frequency is mine below." That is not a comment. That is a tuning fork. That is your spirit locking onto a signal it was designed to receive. Now, let me tell you something about the specific kind of person who goes through the victory delay and comes out carrying the celebration frequency, because not everyone does. And the reason not everyone does has nothing to do with worthiness or spiritual maturity. It has to do with a pattern so subtle that most people walk right past it without recognizing what it is. The people who complete the victory delay and enter the celebration frequency are not the ones who endured the longest. They are not the ones who prayed the hardest. They are the ones who, at some point during the delay, stopped trying to fix themselves and started trusting the process they could not see. That is the shift. That is the thing heaven was waiting for. Not perfection, not performance, surrender. Specifically, the surrender of the idea that the delay was your fault. Because as long as you believed the delay was caused by something wrong with you, you were fighting two wars at the same time. One against the external circumstances, one against yourself. And the second war, the internal one, was draining more energy than the first. The moment you stopped fighting yourself, the moment you allowed the possibility that the delay was not punishment but architecture, something released in the spirit that allowed the celebration to begin. And you did that. You may not remember the exact moment. It may not have felt dramatic. It may have been a Tuesday afternoon when you simply exhaled and whispered something like, "I do not understand this, but I am still here." That was it. That was the moment. That was the thing that made heaven erupt. Not a grand declaration, A quiet, exhausted, honest surrender that said, "I trust what I cannot see more than I trust what I can." And God smiled, because that is exactly what he was building you toward. You thought you were waiting for a breakthrough. God was waiting for a surrender, and you delivered it without even knowing you were being watched. And here is something I need to speak to directly, because there is a voice in this audience right now that is whispering something dangerous. It is whispering, maybe this is true for other people, but not for me. Maybe they really did it, but I have not really accomplished anything. Maybe heaven celebrated over someone else, and I just happened to be listening. I want to address that voice with precision. That voice is not wisdom. It is not humility. It is the last defense mechanism of a delay that does not want to end, because the delay creates an identity. After enough time in the waiting room, you start to believe the waiting room is your home. And the idea that you have actually completed something, that the waiting is over, that the next season is here, that idea threatens the only stability you have known for years, the stability of low expectations. But here is the truth that dissolves that voice. You are not listening to this message by accident. Millions of people saw it appear. Most scrolled past. You stopped. You stayed. You are still here. That is not random behavior. That is recognition. Something in you already knows that what is being spoken is about you specifically. And the part of you that knows it is older and wiser than the part of you that doubts it. You did not stumble into this message. You were led here. And the one who led you here is the same one who smiled when you completed what you completed. If this message were not for you, you would have left it 20 minutes ago. You are still here. That is your answer. Now, let me tell you what begins to happen when the celebration frequency activates over a life that has completed the victory delay. Because the effects are specific, and they follow a pattern I have seen repeated hundreds of times. The first thing that changes is the speed of confirmation. Things you have been praying about for years begin to show signs of movement within days or weeks. Not because the prayer changed, because the frequency at which you are operating changed. And when your frequency aligns with what has already been released in the spirit, the physical world begins to rearrange itself to match. The second thing that changes is the quality of your rest. You begin to sleep differently, not more, better. The kind of sleep where you wake up and the knot in your stomach is not there. The kind of sleep where dreams carry instruction instead of anxiety. That is not coincidence. That is the restoration of a mind that is beginning to synchronize again. The third thing is the strangest and the most confirming. People begin to treat you differently before you do anything different externally. They respond to an energy they cannot name. They offer opportunities without being asked. They step aside when they used to block. It is as if the invisible realm is sending signals to the people around you that something has changed, and they are responding to the signal before they can articulate what it is. This is not mysticism. This is the documented reality of what happens when the internal state of a person shifts at a fundamental level. The external world follows. It always does. The question is never whether it will follow. The question is what it is following. And when it is following the celebration frequency, what arrives next is different from anything that came before it. And there is one more thing I need to name about what the delay took from you that you have the right to reclaim. It took your sense of time. During the delay, time felt distorted. Days lasted forever. Years disappeared. You would look at a calendar and realize months had passed without a single memorable event. You started measuring your life in survivals instead of celebrations. I survived this week. I made it through this month. That language of survival is the language of someone who has forgotten they were designed for victory. The celebration frequency restores your sense of time, not the clock time, the purpose time, the kind of time where every day has texture. where every morning carries a specific assignment, where you stop counting the days and start weighing them. And the weight they carry is not burden, it is meaning. Thick, rich, unmistakable meaning that tells you this day mattered. I was here, I was awake, I was alive in the way I was designed to be alive. Now, I want to take you somewhere specific, because what I am about to describe is something you need to see before we go any further. And I am going to ask you to do something with me for just a moment. I am going to ask you to close your eyes or soften your gaze and let your body settle wherever you are right now. Picture a morning 6 months from now. You open your eyes before the alarm, not because of anxiety, because of readiness. There is something in your chest that you have not felt in years. Not excitement exactly. Something quieter than excitement. Something steadier. It is the absence of the knot. The knot that has been sitting in your stomach for so long you forgot it was there. It is gone, and in its place is a warmth that does not need anything external to sustain it. You sit up. The first thought that arrives is not a worry. It is a question. A creative question, the kind that used to come to you as a child before the world taught you to filter everything through fear first. What do I want to build today? Not what do I have to survive, what do I want to create? And the thought does not feel foreign. It feels like reunion, like meeting a version of yourself that has been waiting for you in a room you finally found the key to. Now hold that image. That version of you is not fantasy. That version of you is the version that the victory delay was building. The foundation is complete. The structure is ready. The only thing standing between where you are right now and that morning 6 months from now is the condition of the receiver, the mind that will process the signal, the brain that will translate divine instruction into lived experience. And that is where we need to go next. I want to close the loop I opened earlier about what was found in research laboratories that connects directly to everything you have just heard. Because I told you something had been discovered about the way the brain operates that most spiritual communities have never been given language for. And I waited until this moment to bring it forward, because a solution only lands fully once the shape of the problem is completely understood. You now understand the shape. Here is what I need you to understand about the mind you are currently operating with. There is a measurable, documented difference between a brain that is running on whole brain activation and a brain that is running on partial synchronization. The difference is not subtle. It is not a matter of degree. It is the difference between a radio receiving on one channel and a radio receiving on every channel simultaneously, between a lens that is focused and a lens that is smeared. The research that proved this won the Nobel Prize in 1981. Dr. Roger Sperry demonstrated that the two hemispheres of the brain are not redundant copies of each other. They are specialized, complementary systems designed to work in concert. When they synchronize, the result is what researchers call whole brain activation, creativity, intuition, logical processing, emotional regulation, spiritual receptivity. All of these operate at their maximum when both hemispheres are communicating at full bandwidth. When the synchronization breaks down, each hemisphere begins to operate in isolation, and the result is exactly what you have been experiencing: fog, heaviness, ideas that arrive incomplete, prayer that feels like it hits a ceiling, a sense that you are present in your own life but not fully inhabiting it. And here is the part that connects everything. 98% of children operate at the level of creative genius. That is not motivational language. That is a measured, documented finding. The synchronization between hemispheres in childhood is the default state, but modern life, stress, artificial light, emotional weight, the constant low-grade fight or flight that most adults live in, These conditions gradually erode that synchronization. By adulthood, fewer than 1 in 1,000 people maintain the level of whole brain activation they had as children. You did not lose your genius. You did not lose your sharpness. You did not lose the fire that made you different as a child. It was taken from you, not by a person, by a process so gradual and so universal that you assumed it was just aging, just life, just the way things are. But it is not the way things are. It is a condition. And conditions, unlike identities, can be reversed. That is what the victory delay was protecting you long enough to discover. Not just that the blessing was coming, but that the receiver needs to be restored before the blessing can be received at its full depth. Heaven celebrated because you completed the spiritual formation, but the physical restoration, the neurological reconnection that allows everything God has arranged to land with full clarity and full force, that is the step that remains. Maybe right now, a part of you is thinking, I have heard promises like this before. I have tried things. I have invested hope. And what I got back was disappointment. If that is your thought right now, I want you to know that is a reasonable response. That is the scar tissue of someone who has been sincere too many times to be naive. And I am not going to ask you to override that caution. I am going to ask you to hold it in one hand while you hold what your spirit is telling you in the other. And notice which hand feels heavier, because the weight of past disappointment and the weight of present recognition are two different kinds of weight, and your spirit can tell the difference even when your mind cannot. What I am about to share is not a philosophy. It is not a theology. It is a specific, measurable, implementable discovery that has been experienced by thousands of people who felt exactly the way you feel right now. And the mechanism through which it operates is something you can verify for yourself. The gap between who you are right now and the version of you that opened their eyes in that morning scene 6 months from now is not a gap of effort. It is not a gap of faith. It is a gap of integration. A neurological gap, and closing it does not require years. It requires a specific intervention that targets the exact disconnection that has been running since childhood eroded the synchronization you were born with. Not preparation, not more study, a specific 8-minute daily practice rooted in research that won the highest award in science. We are going to talk about that in detail in just a moment, because what a team of neuroscientists built around this discovery is unlike anything you have encountered before. But first, I need to speak to something that is happening in your body right now. Notice your hands. Are they still? Notice your breath. Has it slowed? There may be a warmth somewhere in your torso, your chest, your stomach, that arrived without your permission. That is not emotion. That is alignment. That is the part of you that already knows what is coming before the rest of you has caught up. Trust that feeling. It is the same part of you that held on during the victory delay when everything else said, let go. It has not been wrong yet. That is who you have been. Someone who held on without evidence. Someone who surrendered without guarantees. That is not who you are required to stay. What comes next changes the mechanism. What comes next changes the receiver. And when the receiver changes, everything that has been waiting on the other side of the signal begins to arrive. A woman from California described what this felt like for her. She had walked through her own version of the victory delay. A nurse who spent years pouring into everyone else while her own inner world became thin and distant. She had tried meditation. She had tried journaling. She had tried every practice her community recommended, and she kept arriving at the same experience. She believed the words. She could not feel the reality behind them, not in her body, not in the lived texture of her days. After 10 days of something she found almost by accident, she said something cleared. like a channel that had been blocked for years, suddenly opened. Not because she tried harder. Because the receiver had been repaired. She described it as waking up inside her own life for the first time in a decade. A man from Texas described something parallel. A father of two, a business owner who spent every day holding things together for everyone around him, while his own interior life became a hallway he walked through without stopping. Prayer had started to feel like talking into a wall. The frequency was right. The receiver was off. 2 weeks later, he woke up and described his mind as running on the full capacity it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so consistent he stopped registering it as fog was gone. He said it felt like someone had cleaned a window he forgot was dirty. What these two people found, what they stumbled onto separately and described in almost identical language, is something that was built by a team of neuroscientists led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York. They took over an hour of clinical Neuro-sync technology, the kind of whole brain activation protocol used in specialized medical settings that costs hundreds of dollars per session, and through an intensive compression and refinement process, they turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day. Headphones, eyes closed. That is the entirety of the physical requirement. They call it the genius switch. It is not a relaxation gimmick, not a meditation app, not a sound designed to put you in a particular mood. It is a targeted auditory sequence specifically engineered based on the Nobel Prize research of Dr. Roger Sperry to reconnect the two hemispheres and restore the whole brain activation that was the default state when you were a child. The state where ideas arrived complete, where intuition and logic worked together instead of against each other, where the creative fire that made you different was not something you had to search for, it was simply present. If you have tried other audio-based tools before and found them underwhelming, Dr. Barone addresses this directly. Most tools target only a fraction of the picture. What his team built targets hemisphere synchronization at the whole brain level using a multi-layer protocol developed from years of clinical refinement. That is a different mechanism entirely, and it produces a different category of result. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who understands that God prepared not only the promise, but the mind that must walk into it. The person who has been sincere for years, who has done the work, who has felt the call clearly and kept returning to it even when the evidence was not cooperating, and who is willing to stop treating the fog as a character flaw and start treating it as something that has a specific address and a specific solution. Most people who hear about this will scroll past. They have accepted the reduced version of their mind as permanent. You are still here. That is not coincidence. That is the specific kind of persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. Now, let me tell you what it costs. Colleagues who reviewed the technology suggested it would be incredible value at $500. In-person neurofeedback sessions that achieve a fraction of this result cost $300 per hour. Home neurofeedback machines run $7,000 or more. Dr. Barone did not price it at $500. He did not price it at $200. He did not price it at $100. He released it at $49, and on the specific page where this is available today, there is an additional $10 reduction, $39, for lifetime access to a targeted auditory sequence built on Nobel Prize caliber research. That comes with 4 things at no additional cost. A guided visualization designed by one of the top-rated creators on the Calm app. A grocery shopping guide identifying 10 common foods that contribute to cognitive fog, saving over $100 per month. A classic manifestation text that has been in print for over a century, normally $20 on its own. And a printable habits infographic designed for daily reference. Every dollar is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Listen once, listen 80 times. If it does not do what it has done for over 18,000 people before you, every cent is returned. No conditions, no questions. That is not a marketing strategy. That is the confidence of a team that has watched this work thousands of times and knows the pattern does not break. The $39 price is not guaranteed beyond this page. Dr. Barone has communicated that the price will increase. That is not pressure. That is the reality of what limited availability to clinical-grade neurological restoration looks like. One thing worth naming directly: if you search for anything that sounds similar online, you will find tracks. Dr. Barone and his team studied them. Most had no Neuro-sync technology embedded at all. They carried the name because the barrier to labeling something that way is essentially zero. The mechanism is what makes the difference, and the mechanism only exists in what his team built. The direct page is the only verified source. That is where the link in the description and the pinned comment below points. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link in the description below and in the pinned comment points to where Dr. Barone and his team made it available, not anywhere else. You can read everything on their page before making any decision. Every detail is laid out clearly. And for the chosen one who completed the victory delay, who walked through the silence and came out standing, this is not a purchase. This is a restoration, a return to what was always yours. The tool does not replace God. The tool does not replace obedience. It does not surrender for you. It does not complete the formation for you. What God is doing in you is not conditional on any tool, but a tool that restores the receiver gives what God is doing more of what it was designed to land in: a sharper mind, a clearer channel, a whole brain operating at the capacity it had when heaven first smiled at you as a child. And for the one whose spirit confirmed it while listening, that door remains open in the description and the pinned comment. It is a small step, but small steps taken from a clear mind after a long delay have changed the trajectory of entire lifetimes. The decision, like the surrender, does not need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. Now, I want to bring you into something that belongs only to this part of the message. Everything before this was preparation. Everything before this was framework. What comes now is personal. It is between you and the one who celebrated over you. I want you to do something with me. It will take less than a minute, but it may be the most important 60 seconds of your week. I want you to close your eyes or lower your gaze and take one slow breath in through your nose. Hold it for 3 seconds and release it through your mouth as if you are setting something down that you have been carrying for longer than you can remember. Now picture this. You are standing in a room. It is not a room you have seen before, but it feels familiar. The walls are warm light, not painted, not built, just light, shaped into walls. In the center of this room, there is a table, and on that table is a crown. Not gold, not jeweled. It is made of something you cannot name, but when you look at it, you recognize it immediately. It is yours. It has always been yours. It was placed here before you were born. Now look down at your hands. They are empty. Not empty because they failed to hold anything, empty because they finally released what was never theirs to carry: the weight, the guilt, the timeline you thought you had missed, the version of your life you thought belonged to someone else. All of it is on the floor behind you, and you are standing here now, in this room, lighter than you have felt in years. Walk to the table. Pick up the crown. Feel the weight of it, not heavy, true. Place it on your head, and as it settles, feel something change in your posture. Your spine straightens, not from effort, from identity. You are not putting on something new. You are remembering something old, something that was removed during the delay and is now being returned. This is the silent coronation. The moment that happens in the spirit before a single person in the physical world recognizes it. The moment you stop waiting for permission and start walking as the person God already confirmed you to be. Not because you feel ready, because readiness was never the requirement. Completion was, and you completed it. Now open your eyes if they were closed, and bring that feeling back into this room with you. Bring it back into your body, into your hands, into the way you hold your phone or sit in your chair. The coronation already happened. You are now living in the aftermath. I want to tell you something about what the next 30 days hold for you, based not on prophecy but on pattern, because I have watched this happen enough times to know the sequence, and the sequence is consistent. In the first week after you receive what has been spoken over you today, you will notice a lightness that comes and goes. It arrives in unexpected moments, while washing dishes, while driving in silence, while lying in bed before sleep takes you. It is not euphoria, it is the absence of the weight you have been carrying so long you forgot it had a weight. And when it lifts, even temporarily, you will feel how heavy it actually was. In the second week, you will begin to notice your thoughts changing. Not the content of your thoughts, the speed, the clarity, the way one thought connects to the next without the usual gaps and detours. Ideas will begin to arrive complete again. Not fragments you have to assemble, whole visions, clear directives, the kind of thinking you remember having when you were young and everything felt possible. By the third week, the people around you will notice something they cannot name. Your spouse, your children, your co-workers. Someone will say, "You seem different," and they will not be able to tell you how, because the change is not behavioral. It is frequency. The way you occupy a room has shifted. The weight you carry has been replaced by something that looks like the same person, but feels entirely different to be around. And by the end of the month, you will look back at the version of you that heard this message for the first time, and you will barely recognize them, not because they were weak, because they were carrying something that was never theirs to carry. And the version of you that stands at the end of that month is the version that set it down. That is not a prediction. That is a pattern. And it has played out the same way every single time I have watched it unfold in the lives of people who completed the victory delay and stepped into the celebration frequency with their whole mind restored. And I want to speak something over your life right now that is not mine to hold back. I declare over you, chosen one, that the victory delay is finished. That every day spent in the silence, every morning where the fog pressed against your forehead, every evening where you wondered if anyone was watching, has been counted, recorded, and honored in a way that only heaven can measure. I declare that the celebration frequency is active over your life, that the divine acceleration that follows spiritual completion is not coming. It is here. It began before this message. This message is merely the announcement. I declare that the receiver is being restored, that the fog is not your identity, that the clarity you had as a child is not gone. It is dormant, and what is dormant can be reactivated. That the gap between who you are and who you are becoming is not years. It is a decision, a surrender, a restoration that starts in the mind and finishes in the entire landscape of your life. I declare that no weapon formed against your clarity will prosper, that the same God who celebrated your completion is now overseeing your expansion, that every relationship, every opportunity, every open door that has been held in reserve is now moving toward you at a pace that matches the celebration frequency, not the clock on your wall. And I declare that you are not who the delay told you that you were. You are who heaven celebrated you as. And that person does not beg, does not shrink, does not apologize for taking up space in a world that was designed to hold their fullness. If that just moved through you like electricity, if your body responded before your mind could process it, type, "I am the one heaven celebrated below." Let that be the declaration that seals this moment. Before I close this message, I want to ask you to do something that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with someone you know. Think of one person right now, not someone who has it together, someone who has been walking through their own version of the victory delay, someone who has been holding on without evidence, someone who has been smiling through exhaustion and praying through silence and wondering if anyone sees what they are carrying. You know exactly who they are. Their face appeared in your mind before I finished the sentence. Send them this message. Not because it is content, because it is a mirror. Because somewhere in what was spoken today is the exact sentence they need to hear to understand that the delay was not rejection, that the silence was not absence, that heaven is not indifferent to what they have been through. And if they hear it, not from a stranger but from you, the person who survived the same kind of season, it will land differently than if they found it on their own. You are not just the chosen one. You are the one who was chosen to deliver a message to someone else who needs to know they were not forgotten. That is how the celebration frequency works. It does not stop at you. It moves through you. It reaches the people God has placed in your life who need the same thing you just received: clarity, restoration, the sound of heaven saying your name and adding the word finally. If you have been part of this community of chosen ones who gather here, who return to these messages not out of habit but out of recognition, this is your home, not a channel, a family. A gathering of people who have walked through the delay, come out the other side, and now carry something in their eyes that the world cannot explain and cannot take away. You belong here. You always have. The delay is over. The celebration has begun. The coronation is complete. And you, chosen one, are exactly who heaven said you would become. If everything that has been spoken over you in this message is something your spirit claims as true, type, "I finally did it," and heaven knows in the comments below. Not as a comment, as a covenant, as a line drawn in the sand that says, "Today the waiting ended. Today the arrival began. Today I stopped surviving and started reigning." And so it is.